everyone, I am Dr. Josie, this is Write Your Acceptance, and today I am covering 12 tips that I wish all of my pre-meds would follow to get the most out of their pre-medical journey before we work together. So, let's dive in. But first, meet Katie's acceptance letter. Each and every student that I work with has such an incredible story, and Katie was no different. What we do is so much more than editing. We are building your narrative from personal statement to interview prep so that you get the results of your dreams, basically. This can be you. This can be us, right? So if you're interested in learning how I work with students, definitely fill out our application, schedule your call, and we can see if you're a good fit. If we're a good fit. All right, so these tips will not only help you become a more competitive applicant, but also ensure that you have meaningful experiences along the way that help you prepare for the challenges of medical school. Okay, so let's dive right in. Tip 1, get clinical experience early. I mean, this is not kind of rocket science. This is the most obvious one, I know, but you want to make sure that you're getting in those clinical experiences, whether it's shadowing, volunteering, hospital work, medical scribe, that you are getting kind of direct exposure to patient care, which will give you a head start in understanding what being a physician could be like for you, but then also it gives you content for the writing and reflection that you're going to do for when you are ready to apply. Most of my students start that kind of like when I ask around sophomore year, which allowed them to build kind of long-term relationships with physicians. Some start kind of more active part-time clinical experiences soon after that. If you're scrambling for patient-centric stories for your personal statement and activities, that tends to be an indicator that you don't have enough. But when you're writing your personal statement, it tends to be a little late, right? Or a little later in the game. If you do have varied experiences, by the time you apply, you could reflect deeply on them. You can make connections between different clinical experiences and patient interactions and medical ethics that kind of, stood out for you. And those tend to be the personal statements and the activities and secondary, like the texts, that really kind of are the most compelling. So the earlier you start, the more time you have to reflect on those experiences and to show growth within your application. Number 2, and I'm putting it as number 2 tentatively, get involved in research, but only if it's meaningful to you. And that's super important. So research is a great way to kind of show intellectual curiosity, which is one of my biggest pillars, but you want to find something that you're not just checking a box for. You want to find, whether it's lab research, clinical studies, public health work, make sure you can speak about it passionately, that it's personal to you in some way, that you've learned something meaningful within and beyond the classroom, that you've made connections with this work. I had a student who I worked with wasn't sure about research, but eventually found a project studying nutrition in underserved communities. And that aligned with their kind of commitment to public health. And they were able to discuss contributions and how that experience with that research then help them kind of work in their service, their volunteer work a little bit kind of more with more purpose. So why does this matter? You don't want to just check off the research box, right? You want it to be shaping your intellectual curiosity and tying into future goals within medicine. So it is one part of a kind of puzzle, right? It's not just, and I did this, check. Another tip is build those relationships with your professors and mentors. So it's super important to build these relationships. Students attend office hours, get to know their professors, get to know your mentors. Those tend to be the professionals that will write the best letters of recommendation for you because they get to know you. They get to learn about your career goals, not just kind of questions about a test, right? And how to get that A. So the more kind of they get to know you, the more personal a letter they can highlight, your passion for medicine, your academic growth, your commitment to the craft and your calling. Build those relationships early for sure. Tip 4, engage in meaningful service work. This is prime time kind of messaging and writing that we use, or prime raw material for crafting that personal statement in the application. Volunteering is a must for medical school applications, but it's important to engage in service work that you're genuinely passionate about, that reflect your values and long-time goals in healthcare. So for example, quite a few of my students this cycle volunteered at a free clinic in a low-income neighborhood where they worked closely with patients who didn't have access to regular medical care. This experience not only showed their commitment to underserved populations, but also that gave them content to reflect on their why medicine and their kind of commitment to equity within healthcare that is important to them, but anchored in experiences. So why is this important? Service work aligns with your mission to serve within medicine. And so admissions committees can tell when an experience is meaningful versus a resume filler, right? So you want to make sure that you're finding those purpose-driven experiences. Tip 5, learn something outside of medicine. You're not just a medical robot. Give your application some depth. So medicine is not just about science and patient care. It's also about being well-rounded. Pursue hobbies or skills that show that versatility, right? Whether it's learning a new language, playing an instrument, writing creatively, having interests outside of medicine can make you stand out. And it could be you don't have to like pick something quick, pick a new hobby, not necessarily. What have you been doing for fun or, for sport? What are you passionate about, whether it's music or tutoring? Do you give back to your community in a specific way that you've been doing for years? I have a student who started a nonprofit teaching children swim safety, and they were a swimmer competitively for many years. So it could kind of stem off of something that's a part of you. It shows creativity, leadership, and above all service, right? And kind of like that interest in growth and evolution. Medical schools love to see applicants with unique interests because it shows you're well-rounded, have the potential to bring diverse perspectives to patient care and to their incoming medical class. Tip 6, shadow physicians in different specialties. While shadowing a physician in any specialty is valuable, it's a good idea to diversify your shadowing experiences. So try to observe physicians in different areas of medicine so that you can gain kind of a more comprehensive view of healthcare. So I have a student who shadowed both a pediatrician and an oncologist. This allowed them to compare how different specialties kind of approach patient care, right? And they reflected on these insights in their personal statement. It showed that they understood kind of wide-ranging responsibilities of a physician and weren't limited to kind of just one perspective. So why this matters, medical schools want to know that you've taken the time to explore different facets of medicine, right? That it's not just one sliver of medicine that's of interest to you, or that it's not just rainbows and unicorns. So that you're a well-rounded understanding of the profession as much as you can at the pre-medical stage, right? Okay, so number 7, my tip is keeping a reflection journal. A lot of times I can't tell you, especially when we're kind of brainstorming, when students and I are brainstorming, they say, oh, I had this great volunteer experience, and then I'm trying to kind of narrow them down into images as if we had a camera and I want to see, hear, taste, touch, whatever appropriate. And they're like, oh, but I don't remember. Or I don't remember what was said here or what I did to here, but I know that the person came back the next day and said thank you. So you really want to make sure that you're capturing your experiences because you're having so many and you don't know when you're going to have an incredible experience that you can capture down the road in your personal statement or secondaries. Whether it's voice memos, whether it's notes on your phone, whether it's a physical journal, however you capture your kind of brainstorming and memories, kind of journal experiences, especially big ones, so that you can have this kind of archive of information. So this works because, you want to ideally capture those quiet moments, those conversations that really kind of reframe something for you. Tip 8, don't ignore non-clinical jobs. So even if it's not directly related to medicine, don't discount it. Jobs that show responsibility, leadership, communication skills, especially if you have to work throughout undergrad. I have plenty of students who have to work to help support themselves, to help support financially their households, their families. So don't discount this as valuable kind of preparation for this next stage. The first sentence of a secondary was order up, I'll never forget it. And so the AACOMAS didn't either. And so they talked about like their barista years, working and basically kind of supporting themselves and their single mom. And so, highlighting kind of the interactions and the wide range of customers or managing stressful professional situations, balancing kind of, your professional with your academic responsibilities, teamwork skills, communication, all this becomes part of a compelling application, right? And so medical schools, again, are looking for well-rounded applicants. Non-clinical jobs can demonstrate these like soft skills, empathy, communication, resilience. And so this is critical for future physicians. Are you starting your application and worried about kind of whether or not you're hitting everything you should be hitting? Schedule a chat today. Let's talk about if we're a good fit to work together. I work with students from personal statement all the way through interview prep, so we really curate your message the entire time. All right, so let's get back to it. Tip 9, seek out leadership roles, right? Whether it's in a club, organization, a community project, demonstrate your ability to take initiative and work well with others. Look for opportunities where you can step up and lead a team or project. So an example, a student who was passionate about mental health awareness started a campus mental health club. And so they organized different events on campus, they brought guest speakers, they created a peer support network. And so the leadership experience was highlighted throughout their application, and they could continue to come back to this leadership role, showing initiative, passion, organizational skills in different ways because they kind of took a lead in different ways. So this is, showing that you're managing, working collaborative, that you can manage multiple responsibilities. It's a good one for sure. Tip 10, consistency in commitments. Sometimes students want to do too much or be everywhere or kind of be in everything, and you're not really showing kind of that over time key experiences that you're growing within those responsibilities and roles. So one of my students, like this past cycle, volunteered at the same community clinic for 3 years, and they started now training new volunteers and taking on more kind of leadership roles. So it really shows kind of this long-term commitment to their dedication and their craft, that it's not just kind of checking the box. So why this matters: consistency shows, to the admissions committees that you are reliable, that you are invested in long-term kind of involvement, and it allows you to have richer experiences for the most part to then talk about and reflect on in the application. All right, so 11, stay up to date on healthcare issues. Being informed about current healthcare issues like disparities, public health policy, medical ethics will not only help you in interviews, especially if you're going to do MMI. This cycle, I've had so many more students have MMIs, but it'll just kind of give you more awareness in the kind of the field that you are entering, right? So for example, a student who volunteered at a public health clinic was able to talk about how healthcare disparities impacted patients from low-income communities in a very specific way, and they wrote about this firsthand experience working with underserved populations and how it informed their understanding of healthcare policy, and they kind of went into a little bit of like what they learned. So, you can chat about it in an interview, you can kind of draw from it in an MMI, and you can also write about it. So just kind of like be informed. It's not something you have to kind of freak out about. It's not one more thing on your mountain of to-do list, but I live and die by my calendar. So I would put that on kind of your calendar, and once a week, just kind of spend 15 minutes kind of perusing what's going on. And, I have a couple of websites that I definitely recommend. So if that's of interest, let me know, and I'll kind of put that in the comments. And then number 12 is prioritize your well-being, prioritize your health. This is a marathon, not a sprint, right? And medical school and getting into medical school is tough. I empathize totally, but you want to make sure that you are maintaining your health, your sanity, your kind of joy throughout this process, right? That you're not neglecting your mental health and social life. Once you start kind of like self-care rituals, hobbies, kind of like, fit into a schedule that is maintainable, and you, for the most part, will do better and thrive longer term than if you're kind of burning the candle at both ends, right? So learning how to maintain a healthy work-life balance is super important. I know self-care feels like a buzzword, but it's crucial for longevity in medicine, but it's also crucial for longevity within the application cycle in and of itself. I think that is like, number 12, just because I think it's important to love you. All right, so there you have it. The 12 tips I would give all pre-med students to get the most out of your pre-med journey, and also the puzzle pieces to create a competitive, well-rounded medical school application. Like I mentioned, if you want to learn how I work with students, definitely complete our application, fill out the Calendly link, and we can chat and see if we're a good fit. Hope this was helpful. Give us a like, share with your pre-med friends, all that good stuff, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.